Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? What the heck is going on with the markets? When the market should be up, they're down. When they should be down, they're up. And you have no idea what the heck is going on. Yesterday, the market should have been obliterated. Before yesterday, the market should have been obliterated, but they did pretty good. And earlier this morning, there was a lot of pre-market reports from the biggest banks in our country, JP Morgan, Citibank, Wells Fargo, Morgan Stanley, so on and so forth. And the market was doing good. And all of a sudden, the market tanked. Why did the market tank? We got a very, very interesting report that just came out. The report is called the Consumer Sentiment Report. So you get this report twice a month. You get the preliminary numbers, and then at the end of the month, you get the final numbers. Today, we got the preliminary numbers for October, and it's very, very interesting. I'm going to go over it in just a moment. The sentiment report is done by the University of Michigan, where they ask random people how they feel about the economy in the short term, in the long term, and just literally consumer sentiment. Consumer sentiment is the populace, okay? Now, it's definitely going to be a skewed report. It's definitely going to be a skewed survey, and it doesn't take into account the entire country, but it gives us a small inclination, a small light, a small peek into the window of what the heck is happening in our economy. And for the longest time, the consumer sentiment was, hey, inflation is in fact going down. In the midterm, we believe that it's going to be a certain amount. And in the long term, we believe it's going to be a certain amount. And for the last couple of months, that sentiment of inflation has been going down. However, in this month, it's actually rolled back. And the midterm inflation expectation actually started going up. Let me show you the report and let me show you the last couple of months. So this is the Consumer Sentiment Report. This is the preliminary results for October 2022. Don't look at all these numbers. There's nothing for you to see here. Then they give you like an abbreviation of what's happening. The first half, don't worry about. The main thing that I want you guys to see over here is the median expected year ahead inflation rate rose to 5.1%. 5.1%. Why is this very, very important? I'll explain in a minute. With increases reported across age, income, and education. Last month, the long-run inflation expectations fell below the narrow 2.9 to 3.1% for the first time since July of 2021, but have since expectations returned to the range of 2.9%. After 3 months of expecting minimal increases in the gas prices in the year ahead, both short and longer run expectation rebounded in October. What does this mean? And I'm going to show you some of the last figures. That means that in the medium term, right, in the next year, we believe that inflation is actually going to be at 5.1%. And everybody believes that gas prices is going to go up. The reason why inflation is perceived to go up is because of the gas prices. As I said before, around 2 or 3 weeks ago, I started thinking a little bit differently, and I feel like we blew our load with this gas, and it didn't work. And I believe that inflation is going to go up because of that. And it seems like this report is agreeing with me. And when this report is agreeing with me, that means regular people in the economy, regular Americans, are agreeing with shit is about to hit the fan. Now, these are the last numbers. This is the expected change in inflation rates. And then you have next year, which is in the midterm. And then the long term is 5 years. If you go all the way to the bottom, that's this year. Let's zoom in on this just a little bit more. January, expected 4.9%, 4.9%, 5.4, 5.4, 5.3, 3.2. All of a sudden in August, 4.8, 4.7, and we think, hey, things are getting a little bit better. And all of a sudden we get this 5.1 number. Also, we assumed that long-term in 5 years it was going to be 2.7, and now we think it's going to be 2.9. If you go all the way to the beginning of this report and you go to the 1970s, late 1970s, 1980s, this is where you get these crazy numbers of 5.2. 6s, 7s, 9s, 10s, so on and so forth. And then all of a sudden, in around 1982, the inflation expectations started to go down, 5.1, 5.2, 4.2, 4.7. We all know what ended up happening in the 70s. We all ended up getting Paul Volcker. What does that mean? The Federal Reserve had the most aggressive rate hikes in history in terms of the amount. Right now, we have the most aggressive rate hikes in history, not in terms of amount, but in terms of multiples of where the interest rate was compared to how high we're raising it now. This is from the federal information, right? Federal funds effective rate. Do you see what I'm talking about? In the 1970s, we start raising it, early 80s, and then all of a sudden the federal funds rate goes down. We start to counterattack inflation, so on and so forth. Where am I going with this? Why am I going to this? Like, where am I taking this? I'm taking this that the Federal Reserve is going to have to be super aggressive still. I'm not sure if they have enough ammunition to do it, and I'll explain to you why, but they obviously need to do a lot more than they're doing. Inflation is going down. It is. I'm not going to say that it's not. However, it's going down in the most minuscule way possible. Super small. And it was going down super small as rates were going up, but also as energy prices were going down. Now, gas prices are going to go up. Electric prices are going up through the roof, and natural gas prices are going up through the freaking roof. This is a cool little website. It's literally called National Debt Clock. When I first started making videos on YouTube, the national debt was around 30 trillion and like 100 million, 200 million, and it kept going up steady. All of a sudden, we're at 31.14 trillion. What does that mean? If you take 1% of this number, you come up with a number of 310 plus billion, which means for every 1% that the Federal Reserve raises their interest rates, they must pay $310 billion worth of interest. As their balance sheets get reduced, as old debt goes away, there's now going to be new debt. And that new debt is serviced at a new federal funds rate. And a lot of this debt is short-term debt. Because some people are going to say, well, Adam, this debt that we're paying is old school debt with old interest rates. Yes and no. It's revolving. It's a revolving door. So the interest rates keep going up. Right now, the federal funds rate is going to be raised. We are paying already close to $1 trillion in debt payments, okay? By the way, crazy statistic. If you take every single taxpayer, that means we owe approximately $250,000 a year for the taxpayers. How many of you guys have $250,000 just sitting around on the sidelines that you guys can contribute to taxes? This is our gross domestic product. We have $24 trillion, nearly $25 trillion coming in. Great. The thing is, this is how much actual taxes that we're collecting. The taxes that we're collecting is around $10 trillion. So this is the Federal Open Market Committee CME track tool. This is like the future's possibility of how much the rate's going to be. Yesterday, in the morning, before the CPI, so currently our rate is 3 to 3.25. Yesterday, there was like around a 13% chance for 50 basis points and an 87% chance or so for 75 basis points. After the CPI data came out, 99.3% 75 basis points, 0.7% 100 basis points. If we go to 4%, 4% times $31 trillion in debt is going to get us to like $1.3 trillion that we have to pay. 1.3 or so trillion dollars that we have to pay. Our country has $24 trillion in GDP. However, our GDP is slowing down. It's not increasing. This is why I am super worried with what's going to happen. I'm not worried about the Federal Reserve raising interest rates. I'm worried that they're going to keep raising interest rates to the point that is going to bankrupt our country because we cannot manage the debt. We physically cannot pay for the debt that we are obliged to pay. And if we have it in America like this, that means this is happening throughout the entire world. It's one entire nightmare of an economic accounting situation. What's the answer? In the 70s, our debt to GDP ratio was around 35%, which means that for every $100 that we bring in, we have to pay 35. Right now, it's like 130. So for every 100 that we bring in, we have to pay $130. Huge deficit. Question is, where does the money come from? We attacked gas prices to lower gas prices by, taking out 1 million barrels a day from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. OPEC did not cut production, and for a while it was working. But it was almost like too little, and now it's too late. Not too little, too late, but too little, now it's too late. We don't have any more tricks up our sleeves, and this is the scariest thing possible. Guys, be extremely, extremely careful. I made a video the other day. Debt, credit card debt, credit debt is ridiculously high. It went like this, pre-pandemic, then it dropped during the pandemic, and now it's right here. So it's like, this is pre, and it's like all the way up here. Savings account, drastically diminished. I mean, like credit just went up like this, and savings went down like this. Interest rates are going up for real estate. Most people's equity is in real estate. Real estate market is going to go down. And we are in a technical recession, but I have a feeling that our shallow technical recession is going to be an undeniable, extremely hard and difficult recession, borderline possible depression. And what's happening right now in the world, nothing's getting better. Probably getting out of this war would be the best possible thing for the entire world. And maybe things are going to stabilize a little bit if we get out of this war. Yeah, man. Just prepare for it. A couple of my subs said that they're doing some extra work on the side. They started getting some extra, hours and picked up some side gigs. Do the best that you guys can, but I'm very fearful that this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. So hang in there. Be very, very careful. And I'm expecting one bull rally in a bear market. And I don't think that these last 2 days was it. I thought that maybe it started it, but it seems like the market is dropping. But for anybody worried, why is the market dropping? Consumer sentiment. The people have spoken, and the people said inflation is not going anywhere. It's going to go up in a year from now. Thank you so much. Please give me the likes, the shares, and subscribe. And if you guys want 12 free stocks, I do have a link to Webull down below. Why not get 12 free stocks if you guys are trading already? Have a great day. I'll talk to you guys later.